Hello, thank you for clicking onto my video about scary Halloween movie recommendations. I shot the video, we're going to see it now after the introduction. I forgot to mention Halloween 3, so that is my first recommendation. Halloween 3 is about evil corporate entities programming your children through television. So that's a good movie. There we go with the intro. Ooh, a skull with horns. Wah! Scary movie? Recommendations, just as the text says. But seriously, what is this skull with horns? What kind of thing died? What is that the remains of? Hello, people of the internet future. It's me, Michelle Phoenix. Thank you for clicking on my video. This video is about recommended Halloween movies. My personal recommendations, not all of them are necessarily Halloween movies, but they will scare you. I would like to know what your favorite Halloween movies are. Which ones do you watch throughout your lifetime that really scared the hell out of you? I would like to know. So let's cuddle up on this rainy, oh my god, this rainy dark day of Halloween. I'm just in the Halloween spirit. I'm expecting my Ipsy Glam Bag Plus in the mail today. That'll be a trick instead of a treat. It's a bag though. But let me get down to my favorite Halloween movies. I'm gonna edit this video, so hopefully I won't bore you. Hopefully I'll keep it paunchy and entertaining. So my first movie is the original Friday the 13th. I have more of an amusing anecdote about that movie. That movie was released in theaters in 1980. It was filmed in 1979 in Blairstown, New Jersey, and other areas of upstate New Jersey. It was in Blairstown. My mother's father lived in that area, and in the opening scene of Friday the 13th, the first one, it's shot from a point of view angle from Jason, the guy that kills everybody. Because he was when he was a kid, he drowned in a pond that I'll tell you about later, in a lake rather, and he picks up this hitchhiker in the opening scene of the movie, and she comes in, and she's talking. It's from the point of scene that the camera's shot from the driver, and so she's talking to him, and the truck is rambling down these back roads of Blairstown, upstate Jersey, in the late 70s. And you very quickly in the scenery, you see them pass by a gas station, very quickly. And at the time of that filming, my mother's father owned that gas station, and also the lake. In the ending scene of the movie, the whole premise is that Jason, was this kid that drowned at a summer camp in upstate Jersey, because sorry, it's not funny, but it's fictional though. But so he gets his revenge on all these summer camp counselors when they make out to kill them, because he's angry that he could never get to do that. So in the end scene in the movie, some people are in a rowboat in the lake, and Jason, he comes out of the water and he gets them. It's a jump scare, as it's called in film, when you're just, everything's cool, and then that's called a jump scare. And this kid pops out. So anyway, in real life, in summer of '79, my mother's family were having this big party at a lake, a family gathering, and it was the very lake that scene was shot in, or would be shot in within the coming weeks. And I clearly remember my mother's father complaining, it was the very end of summer, and he's saying to the family, well, we better enjoy it this while we can, because some long-haired hippie, as he said, got this filming permit, and he said at the time to shoot a commercial. And not me, I was a very young kid, but the adults were saying, oh, that's interesting, something is going to be filmed around here. And it turned out it was the original Friday the 13th movie. And I, to this day, these very rural areas of upstate Jersey, it's so spooky at night. And to this day, myself, all the locals for decades, whenever you're driving around at night and it's spooky, you get the feeling of like, why do I feel like someone's going to jump out of the woods and kill me? It's like, oh, because the first Friday the 13th movie was filmed here. And it looks just as spooky as the original. The scenery, just check out the scenery. It's really cool. What else did I want to say? Just that was like a weird thing to, my mother's, so that was shot here in the region. And I just remember that time at the lake. I was very young, maybe a year or two after my grandfather was complaining about the hippie, had a film permit, like 2 years it came out later, and we're at the same lake. Like I used to, when I was a very young child, I used to attend family gatherings at the very same lake where Jason was drowned. And I remember my relatives, excitedly talking about that movie and how it was filmed there. But it needed to be explained to me that movies are make pretend and there's no one actually drowned in the lake, I needed that explained to me. So there's that Friday the 13th, that is a really hairy, long, old school horror of, the murderer has to punish the kids who are exploring their sexuality, So, and then another one, let me jump in like another, 20 years or so in my life, the movie Scream, the original one. I'm attending a university in my life, my real life, about Scream was in Baltimore. I'm attending a university in Baltimore, and I transferred to it from community college in this fall of 1996. And that's when Scream was in movie theaters, and it was very popular, the first Scream, when it came out. And these film students that I'm becoming friends with at the university, they're telling me, oh, Scream was shot here. And it's like, no, it wasn't. Come on, it was shot in California. And I remember other students I was friends with, like business majors, and I was an English major. Mass comm was really big at the university, Towson University. And we're all kind of scoffing at the film major kids, like, Scream was not shot here, stop talking. And of course she was filmed in California. But I watched the original Scream like decades later, and there is this scene where it's towards the beginning. Like, Scream was the movie where Drew Barrymore was murdered in the beginning. And then at some point in the movie, like the first third of the movie, this one character, he has to go to college. Like, I'm going to go visit my girlfriend at the dorm. So it's just a scene of a character walking on a college campus. It's not like a major, I guess, I don't know filmography that well. I pretend to, though. But it's just like it's kind of where it's just like a transition. Like, there's storytelling and there's scenes, and then there's a character. You're just showing a character going somewhere, like in transportation. So anyway, there's this kid who walks by, one of the main or secondary characters, and there's a background of a building. And at Towson University, where I went, like in the late 90s, there was, and I'm sure still is, these really old dorms. There's a very old dining hall there when I was there 25 years ago, probably still there. But there was the old side of the campus, as we called it. And there is this dormitory called Newell Hall that had this really old, it was hundreds of years old, and it had this like old brick architecture. And to look at it, you'd be like, yeah, that's the university. So they filmed this, the makers of Scream filmed this one little shot just because the one building, Newell Hall, looked like a college building. So they had to show the audience, yep, he's on campus, but that was the point of it. But years ago, these Scream was filmed here, and it was just like a 2-minute, the actors walking by. And I guess that's a big budget movie for you. It's just, you have to actually physically travel for a 2-minute thing to show that the character, a 2-minute segment, just to show that the character was right, like on a college campus. So that was Scream. It was 1996. Moving on. Let me see. What's the second one? No. Oh, Coraline. Coraline, and then later I'll also recommend Nightmare Before Christmas. But Coraline and Nightmare Before Christmas, made by the same filmmakers, I understand, like Henry Selick and you know who. I'm going to write it down. I was just thinking about him a minute ago before filming, but now I don't remember his name. You know, the guy that did. But anyway, it was that animation, and he that animation was so specific to Nightmare Before Christmas came out in 1993. But first, Coraline, that was like 2009. I'll put it down in the bottom, right here on the screen. But Coraline is such a whimsical, fun, scary movie with that terrific animation. It was originally in movie theaters screened in 3D. There is a 3D version of it. Recently, like this last week's, you know, on social media, we were all celebrating Halloween, and NYX Cosmetics did I'm going to post it right here. It's this terrific, they posted this terrific photo on Instagram of Coraline, and just really, like, they had a model do, like, really fantastic makeup on herself, and it looks so good. And it just reminded me of that movie Coraline, and how much I love that movie. Catch the 3D version of it if you can. But that movie is not a children's movie. Like, it is, but it isn't. And what I love about that, first of all, had that movie come out when I was a little kid, like, had it, actually, oh my gosh, because it would have scared me even more than it did as an adult. Because I used to imagine, like, you know, in my little child, like, imagination, like, what if I looked into a mirror and there was a parallel universe back there and everything was opposite? And that storyline of Coraline kind of fits right in. And plus, if you really, like, analyze and investigate the storyline of Coraline, to me, it's like a huge metaphor for having, like, a narcissistic parent. Because she has these two parents that she loves, but they neglect her. I mean, it's you know, kind of euphemized, like, oh yeah, they're the parents that she had, but they are really neglectful. And that's why she went into that, it's not fantasy, but like this whole other world where this other, and in real life, that's how, you know, there was the Beldam, you know, the evil character in Coraline. And in real life, narcissists and sociopaths, they're giving you presents right away. Look how great I am, look how great I am. And that character, with the voice of Terry Hatcher, was like giving her gifts so that she could, like, exploit her and, like, feed off of her. And that it really is. And I love that movie. But it's just a huge metaphor for, like, narcissistic people and how they try to feed, or sociopathic even, how they try to feed off of you. And even in the end, like, Coraline, she's fighting for her real parents to save, like, their souls, if you really think about it. But they're still kind of neglectful. But the lesson is to appreciate what you have. But that's a really good movie. Every time I watch it, I'm caught up in the animation, the 3D, the terrific characters. When I do my Ipsy ad copy spoilers video, I like to read ad copy, as you know. And I'm always reading about how, the power of 3, you know, in writing. And in Coraline, there's the 3 phases, like how she visits the mom 3 times, and then I could go on and on about Coraline. I think I'm going on a little too long now, but if you just watch Coraline, I love movies, and Coraline is one that I can go on and on for. But let me go back to, let me continue to Nightmare Before Christmas, which came out in 1993. That animation, that was very shortly before digital animation. Like, just a year after Nightmare Before Christmas came out, the original Jurassic Park came out. And that was the first digital, like, big budget digital animation where Jurassic Park had dinosaurs. And you couldn't believe that you were actually watching dinosaurs. Because in filmmaking before that, they would have had to build a fake mechanical dinosaur, like in Jaws. But anyway, what I meant is that Nightmare Before Christmas was stop motion. The whole thing was little dolls, take a picture of it, move it just a fraction of like a dimension take another picture of it, stop motion, and that just blows my mind. You're not watching a digital movie. You're watching like little actual puppets that had to be photographed for so many times per second or whatnot. And then there's that wonderful movie, the whole storyline of Nightmare Before Christmas, how it's like, there's like a little world for Halloween and a little world for Easter and Thanksgiving. And also how that movie like gets you in the mood for Halloween, but it also gets you in the mood for Christmas, but it's still a Halloween movie. And it's a musical. Maybe you find musicals frightening. Maybe that'll scare you. But I used to watch that every year. That was Coraline. And Nightmare Before Christmas, I used to watch it every year, but I can't anymore because I just know that movie too well. Like, I sing all the songs. But it's so wonderful. I love Nightmare Before Christmas. Also, another classic. This isn't a movie, but another classic is the Charlie Brown Halloween special. Please leave a comment if you know what I'm talking about. The one, little Charlie Brown he's like a little potato. So he has like his costume is like a white blanket with holes cut in it, and he's all caught in it. And the other kids are like, I got Snickers bar. I got Reese cups. And Charlie Brown's like, I got a rock. And little Linus is like looking for the great pumpkin and all that. That's great. That's a classic. A few years back, I watched a classic with friends of mine and like extended family, and it included like an elderly man there that I know very well. And while I'm watching it, he leans over and he says something creepy to me. So since then, I find the Charlie Brown Halloween special like scary, although it's not scary. So let me see. Moving on. I know I also have two war movies to recommend, but this was my third one. Okay, there's a build up to this one too. Last winter, I think it was on Hulu, for nostalgic reasons, and just I'm on a big kick of watching stuff that I watched as a kid and looking at it through adult's eyes. Like that's actually pretty fun at this age. But I was watching Twin Peaks on, I think, Hulu or something. The original one, the television series from like 1990. And that made me remember how that was completely out of the element for television in 1990. Everything was like sitcoms and like a false, happy, cheery thing. And then this Twin Peaks series, and with Kyle MacLachlan in it way back in 1990, just was so creepy and weird and such a phenomenon. And I'm only talking about the first 3 seasons. And then I remember back in 1992, so I was like 17. At the time of like Twin Peaks, the television show in 1990, I was the same age as the teenage characters in that weird show. And I was some of that part like traumatized me because it was so different than what you saw on television in the day. So in 1992, I turned 17, and the prequel, Fire Walk With Me. This is the movie I'm recommending and not recommending. It is so scary. It was like in limited release in movie theaters in 1992. Fire Walk With Me, the prequel to Twin Peaks. Who killed Laura Palmer. I remember thinking when Fire Walk With Me came out, I only read about it in magazines a little bit. And Twin Peaks had been such a phenomenon. I couldn't understand why aren't people going to see Fire Walk With Me? Why aren't you hearing about it? It's very hush-hush. I think it was originally an NC-17. And for it, just for like a movie to come out about like a TV show. And Twin Peaks, the television show, had like these quirky sitcom-y kind of, made for television kind of stupidity in it too. But was also frightening. So I'm like, why? And so last winter, I see Fire Walk With Me. I think I was it was after that kick of watching Twin Peaks on Hulu. I'm like, I could find Fire Walk With Me on like, so I ordered it from like Google TV or something. And I watched it, and I saw why it had an NC-17 rating. Wow. I've seen some like non-mainstream movies, and that's a non-mainstream movie, and wow, is that scary. Like that's like a scary movie, and it's going to be like related to my next recommendation that like I'm recommending it, but I'm not recommending it. It was so frightening. And it's on my list, but dare I say, Fire Walk with Me was like a little depressing. There's just so many undertones there. I could go. That's another movie to analyze, especially how weird it is. Just a quick mention is that David Bowie is in it. I mean, that might say a lot. And David Bowie, he's acting. There's the whole premise of what the movie is and how David Bowie's in it. Like, the movie and the storyline is frightening and weird enough, and then David Bowie is in it. He makes like a walk-on, and he talks in a southern accent, and he's convincing, and especially in the scene he's in, just walks in and walks out. And it's like, what? And also tying in with David Bowie, this isn't a Halloween movie, but it's called Labyrinth. Jim Henson, that's back when Jim Henson was alive, and he did the puppets. It's kind of like a whimsical, I saw that in movie theaters in the 80s. I'm just tying it in with David Bowie. That movie is something else too. Not horror, but it has these undertones of... I analyze movies a lot. But let me move on to like other movies that are mainstream. Like I mentioned, Fire Walk with Me, but are frightening. Okay, the next two movies, and then after that I have one more, so I only have three more. But the next movie that was mainstream, but like, whoa, and it's a war movie, Apocalypse Now. That's a movie to watch on Halloween. Like that, it's I don't think that necessarily was a true movie, but, you know, it's based on war atrocities. That's not and I'm thinking of Marlon Brando, because he was in it, obviously, Apocalypse Now. And then another non-mainstream movie, not really a Halloween movie, but definitely controversial as Apocalypse Now, was that Last Tango in Paris. So those are like non-mainstream. I'm just going on a kick about non-mainstream movies and how, like, wow. Apocalypse Now, I watched that. I've heard about it all my life, and I watched it on Halloween maybe just a few years ago, like in my early 40s. And I couldn't believe what I was watching, like at the very end. And it was fun because it was a movie I'd heard about my entire life, and then got around to watching it. And wow, I can't imagine people watching that like when they were young. There's a young Larry Fishburne in it, that really famous actor, and Lawrence Fishburne. But in the movie he's credited as Larry because he's only like 18 in the movie. That's also fun to watch actors that you've always known as old, and then you see them young. There's that one Jack Nicholson movie. Oh, there's another movie to recommend. I'll put it down here. That one Jack Nicholson movie where I've always known Jack Nicholson as like an older actor. And you watch this movie that I can't recall by what's his name, Roman Polanski. That's a good movie too. More of a thriller with a twist ending of all twist endings. Maybe I'll do it. I just love movies, and that was one of those endings. But I'm totally going off track here. But yeah, what I was going through, the thread of conversation was that, like, you see Jack Nicholson young in that movie. Chinatown. Yeah, Chinatown. That last line of the movie. Like, forget about it, John, it's Chinatown. Like, and then, yeah, it's one of those movies with last liners. But anyway, that's what I meant. Like, Jack Nicholson is young. Jack Nicholson is like 27 in that movie, Chinatown. So that's where I was going with that. But Apocalypse Now, yeah, if you're up, and it's like a 3-hour movie, Apocalypse Now. But if you're up for a 3-hour movie, and the last line of that is horror. And yes, yeah, there was a lot of horror in there. A lot of horror. So, and then one more, another war movie with horror that ties in with Halloween. Not like, yay, I'm in the Halloween spirit, but like an awful horror movie is, this is from 1971. I'm going to correct myself if I'm wrong down here. But it's called Johnny Got His Gun. And that is like early 90s, I think it's 1971. This movie that has very 60s tones to it. You gotta watch it. I watched it on Halloween once. It's very hard to find, but I managed to get a copy on DVD, and I watched it a couple Halloweens ago, and I really enjoyed it and found it appropriate for Halloween. Johnny Got His Gun, it's a fictional character, but it's about war atrocities. And that film would have faded into oblivion if not for this 1988 song by Metallica, which I know that band exists as a corporate entity now, but back in 1988 it was that music band was a completely different bag of chips back in the day. But they sang this song One, and it's about that movie. Like, the songwriters watched Johnny Got His Gun and had to write a song about it. And it's a good song, and the video, features them playing the song, the band playing the song, and then clips of that movie. And if it wasn't for that music video way back in 1988, Johnny Got His Gun would have faded into oblivion. It's a very hard movie to find. It's very good. I highly recommend it. All right, and I think I have one more. Oh, I do. Now this one, it's a short movie. It's right here for free, offered right here for free on the YouTubes by this really superior YouTube channel called Fascinating Horror. His whole channel is wonderful and fascinating horror of natural disasters and occurrences. It's different than true crime. Yeah. But anyway, it's called The Nutty Putty Cave. That specific video on the Fascinating Horror channel is terrific. It's about real people, what happened. I'm not going to ruin it. I'm going to put a link down in a pinned comment below. Please check that one out. That will scare you. But that does involve real people, so, I don't mean to, talk about, entertainment. I'm recommending it to frighten you, but it did involve real people. So I think I'm running out of space on my tablet. So I hope you enjoyed this video of my movie recommendations, and I hope you do a similar video on your favorite Halloween movie recommendations. If not, please leave in a comment below what your favorite Halloween-related movies are. Thank you so much. Take care now. Please like and subscribe. I always say that as a last notion. Bye-bye now. Thank you very much for watching this far. I really appreciate it. Talk to you next time.